SORA stressed me out last week. I was impressed for 5 minutes, until everyone started talking about how this will replace artists, replace video game designers, kill a bunch of startups that were already working on this, ruin the upcoming election, create parasocial relationships, etc., etc., etc. Despite my desire to experience great technology, the pace at which it's getting better is a little overwhelming to me. And I know I'm not the only one in this. Despite the AI gang on Twitter, a lot of us are losing familiarity with our current state of existence as our points of references are disappearing. The job market is shifting, the expectations of reality are warping, our relationships with each other and the world is transforming, and if we don't keep up, it feels like we get left behind. If we do keep up, there's no guarantee either that we can contribute meaningfully to this ship either. Let's take a deep breath real quick. This video is not about fear-mongering around AI or technology, but rather it's about the feeling that people feel when technology is growing way faster than we ever imagined it to be growing, and how it feels to live in this highly disruptive environment. But feeling can be explored by diving into history, just because humans have gone through this multiple times over and over. When we went through industrialization, when the car got invented, when we went through the internet revolution, and so many more. So let's explore why we are being overwhelmed, starting with familiarity. Imagine you saw the acceleration in vehicle production across the country back in the year 1900, and you owned a whole stable, selling equipment to horseback riders. You would see in front of your eyes that your family is about to go through a season of hardship. You'd probably refuse to accept that vehicles are the future because of your personal stake in the success of a horse business, but in 1908, Ford releases the Model T, and you're cooked. Mental stress of having to calculate how to feed your family from scratch is painstaking. That's because you would have lost your points of references with reality. Points of references are the observations we subconsciously make in life. How much does it currently take to travel between point A and B? How much does it cost us to make a house? How much is the highest paying job in this town? Points of references allow us to understand what the limits are around us. Life was based on certain limitations from the technology prior to motor vehicles being in the picture. And our mental processing power gives us comfort from understanding these boundaries and limits. Buildings were of a certain height, traveling long distances required a lot of resources, and horses pooped across town. But now you see a vehicle that can drive around without pooping anywhere, the speed is more controllable, the ride is more comfortable, you can even tow heavier loads. The horse clearly cannot compete anymore. So as the stable owner, you would need to calculate what you want to do next. So you sell your stable and you open a tavern. At first, things work fine. You open it in your local town, cars are driving by, but the car now has changed how cities work. Highways are getting built and people want to drive from one area to the next without needing to pass through your residential area, and your business again plummets. The lack of understanding of your constraints, what's here to stay and what's temporary, is hard to gauge unless you're paying attention to the micro and macro state of affairs. To translate that in today's term, you just took a 4-year student loan, and after graduating, you've entered a job market where your employers have replaced your entire existence with AI tools. The number of jobs for companies you are looking to work for have reduced tenfold. What do? You think, okay, I need to adapt. So you pivot your career into what you always wanted to do, art. So you learn how to use Blender, you become a 3D designer, you're having so much fun. And oh look, but also just got automated by OpenAI. In hindsight, when we look at the advent of motor vehicles, it seems obvious that people needed to adapt to jump on the new wave of motor vehicles. Maybe go work for a factory, become a mechanic. But in the moment, with only so many data points, humans are bound to make decisions that seem good for them, but might not be the best. Our nature as humans is to find ways to anchor ourselves in reality. We subconsciously define that reality by bounds of what's possible, what exists, and where do we fit in that box. So when that reality gets redefined by the world and our bounds lose meaning, we need to rethink of how we can draw new bounds. It becomes especially hard to place new bounds when our environment is experiencing high rates of changes. New information gets overwhelming. You want to mute out the noise so you can focus on your personal self, but you need to pay attention as well. In my case, Twitter started to overwhelm me when it came to SORA. Everyone's hot takes started to confuse me, and even though no one had access to the technology, everyone was trying to get the correct opinion at that instance. What I personally did was I muted the SORA keyword. I think that being overexposed by a lot of opinions from a lot of strangers on the internet just by an algorithm feeding us content is really confusing to me, and I don't think we were ever meant to even be exposed to that many people and that many opinions at one instance. In highly opinionated, low-level discourses, I just choose to really protect myself by kind of muting out the noise. That doesn't mean that I don't pay attention to that technology. I will pay attention to it if it pops up later. But for now, amidst the hype and the speculation, it's a little bit too noisy of an environment. Once we all understand the capabilities of this technology and what it can do for us, and what it can do for me in particular as a video creator, I will choose to see whether I want to implement this into my workflow. But for now, it can take a back burner. The reason why I think we get overwhelmed too is because in this age of AI, our relationship with the world is changing. The content on your social media is now suddenly starting to look a bit bizarre because of the ease of content generation. Words are starting to blend together as the tones look all the more familiar. Skin quality and images are starting to look a little too perfect, and surreal videos are starting to look way too real. There is an issue somewhere, and your ability to discern the truth from what you're being fed starts to confuse you. And a lot of people want to profit off of making content weird online by catering to the new subcultures, and our relationship with other people and technology is shifting. American author Alvin Toffler calls this a culture shock in his book Future Shock, written in 1970. He compares that feeling to that of someone traveling abroad for the first time, and the normal thing that you do in your home country all of a sudden means something else abroad. Culture shock is what happens when a traveler suddenly finds himself in a place where yes may mean no, where a fixed price is negotiable, where laughter may signify anger, and where being kept in an outer office is no sign of insult. So in this new age of AI, who do you vote for the next presidential election if you're unaware of whose content is actually real?
Designating Minecraft as the official national video game of the United States of America.
How can you trust the images and videos of anything that you see? How can you even trust Tinder images? How do you even trust a voice call? The experience of being culture shocked brings fatigue to people. Every action and decision that you can make comes with an air of uncertainty, just because you may never know whether what you're doing is right or wrong. We basically face decision stress. Should I pursue this degree anymore? Should I take this new job? Our abilities to participate in this economy are shifting. Like, how do you even go and afford a latte, for example? During that wave of disruption where we're going through that period where there's a high rate of change, things are bound to look uncertain. But at some point, it does settle down. Not only do things not happen in a silo, but also the ripple effects take time to take effect in all aspects of our lives. The same way cars came and stable owners just thought that it was the end for them, the car actually didn't just end the stable owners' lives. It just created new avenues and new modalities for humans to interact with the world. And by doing that, it also created new jobs and new possibilities for humans to coexist. AI is in its first inning, and while it's disrupting a lot of things and things look like there's nothing left for us to do in the future, that's not really the truth. We're just entering into a new world. While that new world is still being unpacked, there's going to be a lot of opportunities waiting for us on the other end. The great part between us not being in the 1900s anymore is that technology just moves way quicker now. And that kind of is the feeling of being overwhelmed, and that's why I'm making this video. But at the same time also, we can go past the stage of being overwhelmed and actually see that new world that AI is bringing and see the opportunities that it's going to be bringing to us in terms of jobs, in terms of creativity, and in terms of what we end up being as humans down the line. We will definitely be reaching to a point of plateauing and to a point of stability quicker than previous disruptions in technology. While we figure out how this technology works and what it does for us, we also need to start maybe thinking about how we fit into that new world that we're talking about. While we're reaching to that point of stability and familiarity, we need to start thinking about what our anchors are, what our points of familiarity are, and what works for us and what doesn't work for us. So until we get to that point, what can we, the overwhelmed bunch, do in the meantime? I think the important thing to do is to just protect your mental sanity. I personally try to stay up to date with broader trends in technology while ignoring the nitty-gritty little details that are happening. I don't feel the need to dive into every single person's opinion or dive into every single micro trend in technology when it comes to AI or when it comes to any sort of technology at this point. But I do want to know in the broader picture of things what's going on and where we're kind of headed to. I have appointed a few leaders in whom I believe in terms of them delivering news to me, for example. So staying up to date via these leaders and these news sources kind of helps me to understand what's really relevant and what I need to care about and what I can just simply ignore. I just need to understand the direction that we're headed to, the pace that we're going, and what I need to care about and what I need to avoid overall. I know some people might disagree with this take. I feel like my channel kind of attracts more of a tech audience that cares a lot about the nitty-gritty stuff that happens in tech, but this was an important video that I felt I needed to make because of that feeling of being overwhelmed that I felt when SORA actually came out. I do hope that this video just finds the right people and that it helps you to feel soothed and it helps you to feel better about the pace at which we're going forward into the world. Okay, I'll see you next week.